Pressure makes diamonds. When you are being touted as part of the greatest wrestling match ever, you've got to believe that paragon pushing pressure is weighing heavy on your shoulders. Yet, does a diamond feel the same pressure? When it's already shining bright, is there a thirst to forge? Or does it simply become too posh to push? Let's head down the metaphorical mine and see what's being crafted. All will be revealed. This is Raw Graded. So we're meant to open with Asuka versus Charlotte tonight, but as Asuka makes her way to the ring, she's rudely interrupted by Sasha Banks and Bayley, the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. They put themselves over until they're interrupted by Charlotte, who tells them to hurry up because they've got a match to crack on with, and then she's interrupted by the Iconics, who announce that at Backlash there will be a triple threat women's tag team title match between Bayley and Sasha Banks, the Iconics, and Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Some back and forth from the heel teams here. Asuka just getting angrier and angrier as this is going on. Charlotte Flair calls the tag champs garbage. This ensues a riot, and we see Charlotte Flair and Asuka clear the ring of everybody. When we come back from break, we find out we have a triple threat tag team match, non-title type, right this second. Bayley and Banks versus Iconics versus the can they get along team of Charlotte Flair and Asuka. Lots of stuff between Bayley and Banks and the Iconics in this one. For the majority of the match, it's mostly heel on heel. Charlotte gets into the match and just refuses to tag Asuka despite the chants calling for Asuka to get in the match. Asuka gets into the match when she blind tags Charlotte, who bounces off the ropes. Asuka goes wild in the ring. She bounces off the ropes. Charlotte tags herself in. A bit later on, Charlotte comes off the ropes. Asuka bounces off the ropes, and Asuka tags herself in. Just stop bouncing near your end, lads. You'll solve the problem immediately. So this is the story of the match. It's Asuka and Charlotte playing Can You Top This? And it all leads up to Charlotte going up for a moonsault onto Billie Kay and saying, hey, watch this. And Asuka's like, nah, I ain't watching anything. Tags herself in, rolls into the ring, gets the Asuka lock on Billie Kay and wins by a submission for her team. That's the end of the match. Charlotte and Asuka are having a bit of a war of words. Asuka starts to leave, and then she gets blindsided by a double axe handle from Charlotte Flair, who then is shouting in the face of Asuka, reminding her that she's never beaten her, and picks up the Raw Women's title and holds it aloft. Turns out we're getting Charlotte and Asuka later on tonight. So the opening segment I'm giving a B- to. It was lots of, as I said, heel on heel stuff that was fine. I am not a fan, personally, of two singles people becoming a tag team and then winning tag team matches. I think tag teams should be treated as a different discipline. So if you just put two top singles guys together, they shouldn't be able to outmaneuver a tag team. But whatever, here we are. It's a storyline device. Off we go. Charlotte lost the NXT Women's Championship just last night, and nothing of it. No, just like brushes the whole thing off. Talk more about that later on, but a good way to start Raw. So some of the action was great. B-. Out comes Seth Rollins next. It's only when you have Seth Rollins and Bayley in back-to-back bits that you realise how similar their music is. Seth is on commentary. He socially distances Byron Saxton so he can sit on the commentary desk for the interview with Rey Mysterio, live via satellite. You could just use Zoom. Put a fun filter in the background on that. Rey Mysterio says that the doctor believes he will make a recovery, but it'll always be an issue with his eye. And he promises Seth Rollins that there is a 619 with his name on it. He's going to beat his ass when he sees him next. Seth Rollins is pleading with Rey Mysterio to understand that it's for the greater good that he did what he did. He invites Rey Mysterio and Dominic to Raw for next week. We don't get a proper answer from Rey whether or not he will be there at this time. We don't really get a chance to see much more of that because suddenly a wild Aleister Black appears. He uses Pounce It's super effective. Black just attacks Rollins whilst he's doing commentary, and then when we come back from break, we've got a tag match. It's Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo versus Austin Theory and Murphy. The disciples of Rollins have a really fast-paced, hard-hitting, strike-based tag match against Black and Carrillo. As the match just breaks down near the end, Carrillo dives to the outside of the ring to wipe out Austin Theory. Murphy and Black rekindling that rivalry that doesn't seem to ever go away between those two as they're fighting in the ring, and it ends with Aleister Black hitting a beauty of a knee on Murphy as he's off the top rope. Cover from Black for the 1, 2, 3. The moment that the match ends, though, we get Rey Mysterio's music playing. Everyone looks to the ramp, and there's Seth Rollins appearing wearing Rey Mysterio's mask. He snuck off at some point, the naughty boy. The distraction allows the disciples to jump Black and Carrillo again, and Seth Rollins says he's going to use Black as a sacrifice and hits him with the curb stomp to end the segment. Giving this a B. They packed loads into a really short amount of time. The match was quick and intense. The promo stuff with Rollins and Rey was good. I thought the line that Rey used about 619 being like a 619 with your name on it was just, didn't work. Because 619 is not considered a deadly finisher. You know, it's not like I'm going to F5 you. There's a tombstone with your name on it. I'm gonna give you my version of a tiger feint kick. One of them 619 things around there. It doesn't work as an intense name for a finisher. Nonetheless, giving the whole segment a B, despite the fact that it felt rushed, it was really action-packed, and there was lots to chew on, and possibly a Rey Mysterio and Dominic appearance next week to come from it. We will see. Next, it's Christian. This moment just got instantly classic. Christian's on. It's the Peep Show, and his special guest is Edge. Christian says, Edge, as much as I love you, I think you're running on fumes, and I think even in your prime you couldn't have the greatest wrestling match ever, and you can just see Edge just crumble as Christian is just running him down. Edge pipes up eventually and says, I feel like I've been dropped at the bottom of Mount Everest without a team and been told to climb it. He says, you don't understand the pressure that I am under. And Christian just stands up and just reads in the riot act, asking him if he was just going to come back, hit a spear and smile and leave. He talks about his mum, saying that his mum will be ringside as she has been for every one of his matches this Sunday. Christian ends by saying to Adam Copeland that if Edge isn't walking through the ropes at Backlash, he might as well go home. And then there's a pause and you just see this fire in the eyes of Edge. And Christian smiles and goes, there it is. We believe in you. You can have the greatest wrestling match ever. It was Christian just firing up his storyline brother, ready for the match on Sunday. They're cut off by Randy Orton on the Tron, who begs them to shut up. He says that Edge saying that he's going to try and have the greatest wrestling match ever on Sunday is pathetic. And Randy Orton promises to embarrass and humiliate Edge on Sunday. Orton says he's going to take every ounce of grit and determination and take it from Edge and send him home to his wife and kids. Orton says on Sunday the redemption of Edge is over. And Edge simply says, no it's not, drops the mic and leaves. A flippin' plus. I sound like a broken record. These Edge and Orton promos have been amazing. Now, the pressure to put on the greatest wrestling match ever is very high. The hyperbole is off the scale, but you know what? If the promos are anything to go by, they're going to knock it out of the park. The build to this, the mic work from Edge and Randy Orton has been sensational, borderline perfect. In my opinion, I think that they've dug really deep with this. This isn't just your standard showcase of arrogance. There's this desperation from Edge. There's this hunger from Orton, who you kind of get the vibe isn't just like an insulting heel. He kind of wants to drag this match out of Edge. Kind of wants to, he almost wants Edge to perform and succeed. Not succeed, but he wants him to perform. He wants him to bring it, and you can see that passion in Orton, which is great to see, because when he's on, he's on. And Edge has just been brilliant here. This is two old gunslingers just absolutely going for it in these promos, and they have just been fantastic. Highlight of Raw for me, every week in the run-up to Backlash has been these promos. Can the promos live up to the match? I mean, you called the match the greatest wrestling match ever, so the bar is already incredibly high. The pressure is already on. Let's see if we can make some diamonds on Sunday. MVP is backstage wearing a Shad Gaspard t-shirt, which is a lovely touch. And R-Truth interrupts his interview as he's trying to find a hiding space. Now he's the 24/7, 7-Eleven, I-95 winner of the trophy thing. MVP just can't even abide R-Truth and enter Lashley from behind to lock him in the full Nelson and leave him laying. I do hope that before he hangs up the boot, we kind of get a semi-serious run from R-Truth. As much as I love all the comedy stuff that Truth does, like, I know there's a really serious part of Truth that I'd like to see come out of the woodwork before he calls time. Maybe doing something with MVP and Lashley as part of that? I don't know. The anything you can do, we can do better challenge. Just rolls off the tongue, that, doesn't it? Street Profits and Viking Raiders doing a decathlon this week. They each pick 5 events. For the Viking Raiders, it's sword fighting, stick fighting, archery, turkey leg eating and shot put. And for the Street Profits, it's the 1600-yard dash, flip cup, hurdles, dance off and pole vault. It all breaks down and it's 5 apiece. Who'd have thought it? The Street Profits are good at their events. The Viking Raiders are good at their events. I'm not going to bury this like Jack did last week. Love you, mate. Thanks for covering Raw Graded while I was off. I'm going to give it a C+. It was fine. The bit wasn't too long. The joke was very obvious throughout it. Some of my favourite bits, though, were seeing Ivar still doing the dash whilst the second round is going on. Was very amusing. Actually, Ivar was the star of most of these. Montez Ford dancing to Sexy Boy, Shawn Michaels theme, and then Ford and Dawkins doing the Michaels and Nash pose at the very end, you know, when Michaels does this, and then Big Daddy Cool Diesel did that. That was cute. And then Ivar doing a somersault over the pole vault, which is quite funny as well. They've really tried to find the sides with these segments week by week. They started off a bit long and a bit crap, and they've kind of found the rhythm with them now, just as they're coming to an end. Out comes Apollo Crews. He is going to be defending his US Championship against the winner of the next match. It's a triple threat featuring Andrade, Angel Garza, and Kevin Owens. Andrade and Garza enter at the same time, and we see Garza go for a kiss on the cheek via plexiglass from one of the trainees in the crowd, which is quite a fun bit. And then Kevin Owens barrels down and wipes them both out to start the match early. The first half of this match is quite a long in the tooth handicap scenario with Garza and Andrade double teaming Owens, and then one of them going for the pin, and then tension mounting because it's like, hey, why are you pinning him? I'm going to pin him. This eventually bubbles over and they start fighting. They fight out of the ring, Garza and Andrade swapping punches back and forth, and they accidentally knock into Zelina Vega as the show goes to break. And Vega, during the commercial break, has been taken away, and this then becomes just a full-on triple threat match with Owens, Garza, Andrade, every man for themselves, and it just kicks into high gear. The end comes when Owens hits a stunner on Angel Garza. Andrade appears out of nowhere, just wipes out Owens and takes the pin for himself. Andrade is facing Apollo Crews at Backlash for the US Championship. Giving this a B. First part of the match was pretty long in the tooth, as I said. Second part of the match, when it was everybody on everybody, mano a mano a mano, it was really good, fast-paced fun. Backstage, Charlotte isn't that fussed about losing the NXT Women's Championship, and she now has her eyes on beating Asuka in the main event of Raw tonight. She kind of gives the impression in this interview that she's done with NXT. She says she did everything she needed to do, and she raised the bar of the division. So you get the vibe that she's moved on. Asuka interrupts her, dances around. Charlotte asks her if she takes anything seriously. Asuka replies with yes and slaps the taste out of her mouth to end the segment. I'm quite frustrated with the Charlotte situation. Charlotte went to NXT as this diamond from the Raw brand, became the NXT Women's Champion, beat most people on the roster, and now it feels like she's done. That's it. And some people see that as elevation of NXT. Nah, I don't buy that. You didn't get pinned to lose the belt. it harkens back to like Triple H of 02. Like during that horrible time where it was just, I'm just going to beat everyone, there's going to be no consequence to it. Ironically, Triple H has said to watch how this plays out. And you've said that before and I don't believe you. I genuinely think that Charlotte went to NXT, won the belt, beat everybody and left. Who's gained from that? Like you could have used some of your star power. I don't believe Charlotte has. And that's a shame. That is an example of a diamond going to that brand and just not helping. I'd love to know if you think I'm being harsh on this, but it just feels like a way. The fact that Charlotte only talked about it until she was prompted, and even in the main event, like you only ever hear mention of it via commentators in the main event and in the first match, and just seems like she's moved on. After Kurt Angle picks Edge to win the greatest wrestling match ever, we see the Viking Raiders and Drew McIntyre having a chat backstage, about Viking and Celtic stuff. Drew tells the Viking Raiders to stick around for the VIP lounge, which is happening right now. MVP is in the ring with the set, all nice and lovely. He's about to announce Lashley to the ring, and out comes Drew McIntyre instead. They go back and forth, and Drew's threatening to Claymore MVP, and suddenly a wild Bobby Lashley appears out of nowhere. Like Lashley was thinking of jumping Drew, but Drew catches him. Then Drew is reading Bobby the Riot Act, and we see MVP try and sneak up on Drew. Drew headbutts him out of the way. Here come the Viking Raiders, and then here come the Street Profits. And after the break, we have our tag team match, which we announced earlier on in the night. So the Viking Raiders versus MVP and Bobby Lashley, with Drew and the Street Profits all at ringside. I think having that overwhelming numbers at ringside thing works if you're a heel, not if you're a babyface. This just seems a bit lopsided. The majority of this match is MVP taking a hiding from the Viking Raiders. Whenever Bobby's in there, he's mostly dominant. Midway through the match, we hear from Lana backstage. She's interviewed as the match is in progression, and she says that she wants to make 2020 the year of Lana. She's a bit despondent and a bit sad about the way things are with her and Lashley by the sounds of it. The match breaks down near the end when we see Lashley spear Ivar on the outside of the ring. He knocks into Drew McIntyre just before he does. Drew stands up a bit like, oh, are we going? They don't go just yet. And then, meanwhile, back in the ring, Lashley slides in, locks Eric in the full Nelson and gets the submission win for his team. Ivar gets back in to try and get a piece of the action. He ends up getting the full Nelson as well. Street Profits pile in. They're trying to take the full Nelson off of Ivar, and Bobby's not letting go. And then here comes Drew with the Claymore right in the face of Bobby, and Bobby rolls out of the ring, still on his feet. And they point that out on commentary. Despite taking a Claymore, he's still standing. And we have Drew shouting at Bobby as this match comes to an end and we go to break. Giving this a C+, it was fine, it was good. It's quite long-winded. I think they were right in the amount that they protected Bobby. Like pretty much all the offense from the Raiders was on MVP. And Bobby just came in, did a couple of power moves. A few times he got dominated, but not for very long and not very hard, but you know what I mean. And I think the bit at the end with him taking the Claymore and staying on his feet is quite a cool little bit to build to this Sunday. Main event o'clock, and it's Asuka versus Charlotte Flair at last. This is the match that we tried to have at the start of the night. Sasha Banks and Bayley are at the commentation station, and the Iconics are on the other side of the plexiglass watching this match as well. It starts really hot. Within a couple of minutes of the match starting, Charlotte Flair is throwing Asuka into the commentators table. The one thing I noticed from this match, quite a long match this one, it felt like Charlotte had an answer for everything that Asuka did, and every time Asuka was mounting a comeback, Charlotte was shutting her down. And Asuka had very little receipt for Charlotte in this match in comparison. It felt quite a lopsided affair. There were some really hard-hitting bits in this match though, which I think played into sort of the animosity between the two. Charlotte hits a boot on Asuka on the apron, and it looks as if it should have knocked a couple of her teeth out. There's a point where Charlotte goes for a spear and Asuka gets a knee up, and it just collides with Charlotte's nose. Again, there should have been more blood and teeth on the floor than there actually was. During the match, we see the Iconics appear from behind the plexiglass and attack the women's tag champs on commentary. Sasha gets toyed into the barricade, and Bayley gets dropped onto the announce table with the fall from Grace, and then everybody's ejected from ringside during the break except Charlotte and Asuka. Asuka's finally getting into this match, so she almost gets the Asuka lock on Charlotte, but she's able to get away from it. The end comes, though, when Nia Jax heads down to the ring, gets on the apron only to get a hip attack from Asuka and knocked flat back down again. See you on Sunday. But this is enough time for Charlotte Flair to recover, hit that big boot to the face and score the 3. Asuka kicked out at 3 1/4. I guess in a saving grace measure for Asuka, who did take quite a lot of offense in this. Charlotte ends the night holding up the Raw Women's title. Welcome back to Raw, I guess. Thanks for all you did on NXT. But we're not done yet, because after the match, Jax picks up Asuka, drops her with a Samoan drop, and that is the final image that we see before we wrap up for the night. See you on Sunday, Nia Jax and Asuka. Despite some of the things I've said about this match, it was actually a solid one. I'm going to give it a B-. It was very snug. It was clearly very intense between the two. I just feel like I get that you want to put the champions in a position of dominance, but it just felt like Charlotte outclassed Asuka a lot of the time in this match. That's certainly how it felt. So what I'm getting from this is that Charlotte went to NXT. I'm going to bang on about this. I do NXT graded too. Charlotte went to NXT. She won the NXT Women's Championship. She beat most people. She beat everybody she faced in NXT. Or if she didn't beat them, it was a non-finish. She lost the belt without getting pinned, and it's like, okay, now I'm in the main event of Raw now. I elevated NXT. The thing is, you do so much harm by not giving that run the respect it deserves. Her reaction to no longer being the NXT Women's Champion is the same reaction that you would give if you left your gloves on the train. Like, mild frustration, but you know what? I'll just get some more. That's as close as a reaction as we got from it. There was no passion there for NXT. So what was the point in all that? Pressure makes diamonds. Do diamonds continue pressure? No, they clearly don't. Not in Charlotte's case. No pressure to make stars there. It just annoyed me, as you can tell. Overall, Raw this week was a B for me. Good go-home show for Backlash, but not only that, but they're building stuff beyond Backlash. And I'm glad that they're at the point now where these things are overlapping a bit. So we got Seth and Ray doing stuff next week, not necessarily part of Backlash, but it gives some build for the TV that isn't just watch the pay-per-view, watch the pay-per-view, watch the pay-per-view. And on the pay-per-view itself, we now have the greatest wrestling match ever coming up. And I don't know whether it will reach those lofty heights, but I can tell you one thing, Edge and Orton have certainly talked me into the room. Phenomenal promo work by those guys every single week of this build, and top marks all around on that. If the match can come even close to the build, we've done all right, you know. We've done all right. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.